Right. Beautiful. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Quick little rundown. This is going to be about reporting. So, I'm sure everyone is wanting to be in the good books with their accountants. This is a great way that you could be in their good books by running reports or ever needing to find nice little, tidbits of how your sales are doing or how your purchases are doing. This is a great way to get a nice little snapshot and even get some really deep detail as well in some of what's been happening with your inFlow software. We are also going to just focus mainly on the web today, just because we know there have been a lot of changes to it that we're excited to share with you. And we know that a lot of the future of inFlow is going to be on web, making it accessible to everybody. So that's where we'll be focusing. And don't worry, we're not going to go into too crazy minute details of reports. We just want you guys to know where you can find the information and how to do it, how to kind of play around with filters and kind of cater your reporting needs to that. So we found that these reports that we'll focus on today, I think, are extremely helpful. Let's get going, everyone. So my name is Kiri. Welcome to Get Your Reporting On with inFlow. I am a customer success manager here at inFlow. Some of you may already know me. Everyone here at inFlow now does have CSM, which is great. So a lot of the questions that you may have down the road or in this webinar, feel free to reach out to your CSM if you want any more further questions about this. And if it's myself, I'll get back to you as soon as I'm done this webinar. I'm joined by my beautiful Portuguese co-worker, Marcos.
Thank you. I'm Marcus. I'm from the support team. You probably get me in the early mornings, helping you out. I'm based in Portugal, so from the other side, complementing our lovely support team. And we're also joined by our wonderful partner Kostya from the Toronto team. Also, we'll be moderating this lovely webinar, and I guess we can get started.
Yes, hi everyone. Yes, I'm Kostya. I am a moderator today, and I hope you will enjoy this webinar today.
Thank you, Marcos and Kostya. Great, so let's get started. So today we're going to focus on, like I said earlier, a few reports, nothing too crazy. But for sales, we're going to focus on sales order summary versus some of the sales order details. We'll go over a little bit of what the difference of those and some of the information that you can grab with that. We're going to go over some purchase, some purchase reports as well, which is over a purchase order summary, also versus its details to get the little bit of the difference that happens with the both. Inventory reports, so learning what is your current stock, getting either a summary of that snapshot, also being able to see what's in particular locations as well. That might always come in handy. And details, which is, again, gives you a little bit more of a snapshot of what's actually in your inventory. We might even touch on a little bit of the aging stuff, maybe some historical movement, which tends to fall into this audit logs area, but does have a half in inventory. So some of those are great because you want to know how some of those products might be moving through, your inventory, stock transfers, work orders. Are they going out in sales orders? What's selling, what isn't selling? All those can kind of help with those. We'll touch on some customer reports. We'll also touch on some vendor reports as well. That way we can also get some details of, who is buying, our stuff. Is there any trends there? What are we buying stuff from the right people? The right prices? I think those reports also help with that. Reordering is a really interesting one as well, because with reordering, you can also use something like our recommended reorder setting, which allows you to set reorder quantities or a threshold of what it takes for an item to come into your inventory. But then you also want to always have some type of safety stock if that is something that your business tends to do. So that's a really handy report as well. And then this is more of an honorary mention, but manufacturing, because just as you know, be aware that manufacturing and the work order BOM feature is not currently on the web app. But if you are using the desktop and say you do jump on the web, you would be able to run this report and still get the details from it. And those as well down the future, manufacturing web orders, work orders and BOMs will be coming to the web app very soon. And we are very excited to share that with you down the road. All right. I also want to point out a few articles that I think Kostya will just link you to. These are kind of the holy grails, I guess you would say, of when it comes to reporting in our knowledge base. A really good one is what reports are included in inFlow's cloud. How to pull a few common reports, how to adjust the content and layout of reports in inFlow Cloud, and what's the difference between quantity on hand, quantity available, etc. in inFlow Cloud, because I think all of these tie into it, just based off of some of the details that you may be getting through some of these reports. Okay, and you probably will start seeing a bunch of those popping up from Kostya in the chat, so feel free to read through those if you'd like.
And if you have any questions, you can also post them here, please. Forget.
And here's what they kind of look like as well. If you've never seen our knowledge base, that's all here. And I really just pulled up a lot of this by just typing in reports, and that gave me the top 3 ones. And just so you're aware, and you can always find that in inventory if you go under the support area, under our knowledge base there, and that's where you can grab those details. But let's get into it. A lot of people have probably seen this screen before. This is obviously our home page for inFlow. On the web version, again, to get there really quickly, if you've only been using desktop, it's just app.inflowinventory.com and then log in with your username and password. Few ways you can get to reports. It's definitely on the front page where you can kind of jump into some of them, especially if you are, recently wanting to generate some of the ones you just already have done. You can jump into that very quickly, but then you also have your categories as well that you'd be able to jump into them there. Another quick area is just going through our menu bar and scrolling to the bottom to reports here, which will bring us to this page. And this is the main page that you will always see when you are running reports. Everything is laid out also in different categories here where you can find these reports. We'll start off with sales. So again, the first one at the top is product sales, which we will actually be touching on. And you do have a few different ones that are down here. So as long as you scroll down, you'll be able to find different ones, and we'll touch on a couple of them. So the first one I'd love to get into is product sales. And we're going to go over the summary first. And really what the sales by product summary is doing is a list of products showing a summary of how much has been sold and purchased, right? Very simple kind of idea here. When you first click into this report, you're going to be met with this page here where you're going to see a few already pre-aligned headers at the top here that are going to lay out the kind of the cusp of what this report is going to give you. If you ever need to make any adjustments to these reports, which I'll probably do along the way, is you can change a lot of what shows up at the top here. So everything is going to first be grouped into a category. And what that's going to generally look like, I'm just going to create just a general sales by product summary report here just by hitting generate. And we're going to get a pretty big list, right? As you can see, it's categorizing my products in the categories that we have outlined for them. So for example, my spring catalog of my glasses here are all under the product list here. So all these products are in this spring category. So it groups it up pretty nicely for you because now I can get this really quick screenshot of, how many of these were actually sold. It's letting me know that as of all of the spring, there was 38. In terms of total sales, you can actually see for each individual product what that total sale was, how much it actually cost you, and then what the actual profit was that you made. And you do get this screenshot because we're not actually aligning any invoice date, that it is just grabbing everything. So it's just saying that there's 42 sold quantity based on the criteria that I have. I can see a quick shot of my profits. I can also see, how much it actually cost me to purchase these items, and then the total sales as a whole, which is great. But if I think what a more realistic situation would be is probably looking back at a month at a time. And you can also set that there if you did want to get, a quick shot of the last invoice date of when some of these were sold. And then you get a little bit more of a fine-tuned detail in your report,
Sorry to
right?
disturb you, Kiri,
No, hi Marcos, what's
but
up?
it seems the mouse is dragging for some people,
Oh,
and
sorry about that.
yeah,
I'll try to
just
keep it
try.
off the page if it is throwing everyone off. That's strange. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll adjust.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me know. All right.
Okay.
So that is pretty much a breakdown of the summary. Let's go into our details to see a little bit of the differences there. So I'm going to go back into my product sales. I'm going to go under our details. We're going to select that. And then what the details is a report that's going to break down the product and sales orders to show you how well a product has been selling. So you are going to get a little bit more detail. So let's go back to that last 30 days. We're going to apply that threshold there, and we're going to hit a generate button here. Already we can see that there has been some changes to the top. So, again, it's going to lay it out based off of groupings in a category and product layout. So we can see our spring category for our Adept product is grouped together here. We can see the order date and we can see the regular date. And you're probably wondering, why are these two different? So the order date is actually going to be a representation of when you actually created the order. And the date is more of your invoice date. So that's going to be based off of when you either marked it as paid or have sent it out via email or printout. And it will mark it as your invoice date of that was the day essentially when you have told someone you needed to take payment or you have received payment on that time, which is why that difference would be there. You'll also have your order number, and you notice that this is a little bit of a newer feature that Web Reports now has, is where I can actually jump into that sales order. Just for time, I'm going to leave it off for right now, but if I were to click that, it's actually going to open up the sales order so I can actually take a deeper look at it, which I think is awesome now that you have this, and this is a great feature of the web. You'll also be able to get a quick screenshot of how much were actually sold and then the sales amount. So again, you're getting the details of those orders, and if it is something that you needed to see from one of those orders, you have the ability of quickly getting into it. And that's where it is a little bit different from the summary, where the summary is going to give you an overall quick snapshot, where here you can actually really get into the nitty-gritty of details of what these sales actually are. So really handy. You can use these in probably so many different ways. If you did need to do some research or do some auditing of figuring out what happened on a certain sales order, this would probably be the report that you would want to run. Whereas if you just kind of wanted an idea of how some things in a certain category or a certain product were actually selling just at a quick glance, you probably would want to jump into your summary.
Exactly.
Anything
So don't forget.
Manager?
Yeah. So just saying, people a lot of times mix up sales order summary between the sales order summary and the sales product order, sales order product summary, which is the one that Kiri just explained about. Okay, sometimes people mix up both of them, and they are different. If you're looking for more tracking the location of where stuff are, you would probably use, or you should use, by product every time. If you're trying to get kind of a notion, where can you open the sales order summary, please, Kiri? The
Yeah.
one just below. Yeah. So if you're just looking for the sales order and you're looking for the certain status, for example, unfulfilled, you're looking for, okay, I have these orders that still haven't gone out, haven't still been shipped to the customer. You can filter those here. So this would be the better way to get your sales order together, and the other one will be more inventory related, and you'll have the details according to location and everything. Of course, you always have the sales order according to that product and location, but this one will will be more complete in a sense of the sales orders themselves.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Marcos.
No
And
problem.
exactly right what Marcos was saying. So, the sales order summary, it shows a summary of financial information for a number of sales orders. And just for time's sake, I'm going to do everything, which I think we'll do everything on a monthly basis, our last 30 days.
Yeah.
And again, you're seeing a bunch of changes to the top. And you can see here, if you want to get that inventory status right then and there in a screenshot of what's been fulfilled, what hasn't been fulfilled, what's been started. This is a great tool to be able to use for that. If you wanted to know your payment statuses right on a quick fly, what has been invoiced, what hasn't been invoiced. And these are all statuses that can be adjusted in this field here, right? If I wanted to see, only the started stuff, I want to know what I'm in the middle of doing. How can I just get a quick snapshot of that, right? So I could do something where I set the last 30 days and leave it as only a started and active, and I can get a quick layout of that. I get a quick shot of who the customers are, and who what the inventory status is, and what the freight and the subtotal. All these different things really, really fast and really easy to get that. And it also has more ways that you can configure it. Again, if you want to play around with the headers at the top, you can add in the payment terms or the type of method that was used to pay for it, and also filter it by those, because to also keep in mind as well, these are also able to be set in ascending and descending order. If I wanted different statuses on there, but I kind of wanted those to be grouped together in different ways. You do have that ability where if you set the status up here, and you'll get that little highlight to let you know that it's going to be putting it in a sorted order. I can have it grouped so that all the started are together, and then it shows me the unfulfilled, and then so on and so forth. Should be in alphabetical order in this case. All right. Let's, while we're still in sales, let's get into customer really quickly. It's not a very complex report, very straightforward. Again, do you want to see your order histories? Do you want to see certain products that were sold to a specific customer, or just a list of your customers in general? I'm going to do product in this case, just because I think that would be a pretty similar one that anyone will want to see, like who's buying what specifically. It's very close to the sales order summary in the sense of what it's actually giving you at a screen, at a quick snapshot. So again, you're still having that inventory status, you're having your payment status, the amount of the quantity that was actually sold to them. Again, here I didn't do 30 days, but I just went over the last order date, and I can actually see here. And this might even be one where you do want to do something where it's like a location. You can also set this to none and also have the product and category on their own too. Just keep that also in mind, because maybe you did want to filter something out based off of the customer or the product specifically and put that into, an alphabetical order. So you do get a bit more of a different snapshot again of that. Than everything being grouped together. Maybe you are looking for a specific customer. If I was looking at all the stuff that was done through Anne here, I could have those in a ascending or descending order. Okay. Let's take a quick peek before I move on to purchases, if there were any questions that might need to be answered.
Francisco, so if we have a little bit of time, we will show you at the end of this webinar how you can customize your columns in the desktop version. Don't worry.
Perfect. Exactly. Perfect. So Francisco, awesome. Great. And I think, did we get everyone else answered? I know David asked, should the sales by product summary and sales by product details total sales be the same? I'm getting different results from the two reports.
Yeah, Kostya replied.
Yeah.
David,
Kostya, David,
everything is clear.
Exactly. So those reports are taking into consideration different quantities. Summary cares about quantity owned, details about quantity on hand. And just to give clarity, quantity owned is going to be kind of like your global number. This is also going to include things that are on a pick list. So that's either in your work order, something's been picked off the shelf. It's sitting there waiting to be used to create another finished good. or you're currently on a sales order, it's getting ready to be shipped out. It hasn't been shipped yet, so think that it's sitting in a box somewhere, right? It's been picked out of your inventory, so it's not part of your regular on hand, or you're available, which is saying these are the items that if you need to throw them on a sales order or a work order, you have that stock ready to do. It can be used. Okay, so that's something to also keep in mind. And I will be able to, you know what, Costa, if you want, you could link. Thank you. He's already so fast-witted. I love it. This article here will kind of explain a little bit more about how those different quantity levels work. You know, there's quantity owned, quantity on hand, quantity reserved, which is a whole other thing. But if we have some time, we'll get back to it.
I think David didn't get that, the other part. David, maybe what you're looking for is the sales order summary report, which is really called that way, because that is only for sales. So we won't have the filtering of the quantities or anything else. If it's the other two you're comparing, either the filters are different or they should give you the same number. Yeah, be sure you are on the correct report. But anything, you can always contact us. Both the support team and CSMs are always
Exactly
to answer your questions. Do not worry.
Exactly. Like we're definitely dealing with everything on a very high level place where these reports, I want to just be able to let you know, like they're very customizable, you know, based off of those headers, based off of the filters. So if there is a certain level of detail that you're trying to get out of certain reports, that's when I would say definitely contact, you know, your CSM or contact someone on the support side. And then we can kind of go into a more niche kind of outlook on some of the reports to find exactly what you're trying to pull.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's get into purchasing real quick. So our main ones that we're likely going to use for purchasing are going to, again, be orders. And again, it has a summary and a detail. So purchase order summary, it shows a summary of a number of purchase orders, right? And again, you're seeing at the top, pretty much what was similar in sales order summary. I'm going to again use our last 30 days of just being able to not overload us with information. But we can see again in our filters that it's giving us a PO date, it's giving us a request ship date, a due date. How these differ are you can set a requested ship date of when you are probably likely going to be receiving something, and then you can also record the due date of, you know, when it actually arrived if you needed to. If it did come in a different day that you're actually fulfilling it, that might come in handy. You know, again, you get a quick shot of your inventory status. Again, in this case, these two are unfulfilled and the statuses are unpaid. But again, you know, if we had this a lot more open, we probably would be able to see a few more, which I'll quickly run. So now I can see, you know, my unfulfilled, one of these is actually paid, and the rest are unpaid. Some are partial. So it seems like I don't want to pay my vendors very much, but you know, they'll get it when I have the funds for them.
Good business you're running.
Right. And again, we have our jump buttons here too. So if we needed to actually see, like, why haven't I actually paid this person all these funds, you know, I'd be able to quickly jump into that purchase order and get a nice little view of what that is and get some more details out of it if I needed to. So we can see right then and there, that's what my my purchase order, looks like. And again, fine tuning can always, again, edit this to so many different things. If I wanted to add different headers in here, if I wanted to take off some of the grouping, maybe I want to group everything based off of the vendor or the payment terms. I have that ability. As well with the filters up here, I can add more. If I wanted to see, you know, everything that was going into a specific location, I'd be able to set that, you know, to Toronto, for example, here, or to my Ottawa location, if I ever wanted to get some more of those details. And then speaking of details, let's go into our purchase order details, which shows you the items you've purchased from vendors. And again, it's just going to give you a little bit more information on some of these here. So again, a lot of ours look the same. This time I don't actually have to put in a header for vendors. Vendor is already there. So I can see the exact products that were on that specific purchase order, right? So in this case, it was my Adept and my Archon Blue. Seems like I ordered 71 of those and 10 of the Archon Blue to give me about 81 that I will be potentially adding into my inventory because these are currently just started. But in this one, which was a fulfilled one, this one it lets me know I've actually brought in these 50, right? And that's why I'm seeing something like a subtotal here. Please go ahead, Marcus.
Ellie's got a great question. If there is a way to automate a report and send it to their email, like monthly, run a report monthly automatically and be sent to the email. Unfortunately, the answer is no, not currently. Maybe there is a way. I can check with the devs if there is a way to do that through our API, but build it in, no, sorry.
Yeah,
But that's a great feature. So thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, and we take a lot of that feedback important, and we'll definitely bring that back to the team to see if that's something that maybe we can do down the road. I'd also say maybe we got to do some research if there is a way of connecting Zapier. It's one of our integrations that maybe there's potentially a way to have it so it links out that way, maybe when you're printing it and saving it. Keep in mind too that you do have the ability of being able to print out these reports and then saving them in whatever kind of format that you like, regular, if it's, PDF, or if you do want it in the form of CSV, you can also do that as well. Keep that in mind. And then you also have your download and save feature here too. So there might be some type of automation that once you've done that part, it maybe triggers something else and then maybe sends it off. But, definitely I think it would make things a lot easier down the road.
Also down the road, we'll have custom reports. I don't know if that was a spoiler you gave, Kiri. Oh no, it was work orders. Damn.
Yeah, and
I'm chopping off my head. But probably there will be some more options.
I think it's a good thing to bring up because, we do also have a partner program. We do have people who do build reports, and we're working together with them to see if that is something that we can open up to everyone else as well. But don't want to go too much into a tangent, but I'd say again, reach out to your CSM. We can probably give you some information. Alrighty. And so for purchasing, another really quick one, and then we'll quickly answer a few quick questions. But vendors, we want you to also know that there is a way that you can pull, your vendor details through lists or the product list. I think the product list one is really interesting.
So since you're going to the product list, there is a question from Anita. She's asking if there is a report now that shows your monthly beginning and ending balances.
Yeah, and I think we will tend to look at that shortly of which one that one is, because it might be a mixture. Because what you probably would end up having to do is running what your profits are at the beginning of the month and then running it again what's at the end. You're not really going to get one that's going to tell you what it was starting and what was happening at the end. Yes, Anita, I will, once I kind of run through some of these, I'll see in the question and answers at the end. We'll see if we can bring that one up for you, for sure.
Yeah, what you could do is always have the historical inventory movement, so you could see where the inventory went from where to when, and you can have a specific date. But if it would be the orders themselves, not precisely.
Yeah, so it might be a mixture, which you might tend to find from time to time that you may have to run more than one report to get exactly what you want.
And I have some questions, and don't worry, those that haven't been answered by Kostya, I'm writing them down, and I will deliver them and answer them as possible.
Perfect. And so this is our vendor product list. This is where, again, you can get a snapshot of the vendor, what you've actually been buying from them. You can set different pricing schemes. If there are different rates that you've been buying something for or selling it for, you can see that as well. So in this example, this is everything I bought from Alphabet Optics. Lets me know what category I put it in, what the vendor's price was that I bought it for. And then there's a vendor product code. So this is a great way if you needed to get a list of, your actual vendor and what they actually sell you. this is a great one that you can come to instead of having to, pick and choose through every single vendor on your list, and see that there. But if you did know who exactly it was and you were searching for them, you also have that ability that you'd be able to fine tune it and only say, just show me only what's in the alphabet optics. What do I buy from them? I want to just quickly know what I pay for certain products for them. That would just come up just like that. Okay. Let's get into some inventory, which is one of our specialties here. And that is in stock levels. So I'll start off with just regular inventory. And I think probably one of the most common ones is going to be by location. Mostly you want to know what's actually in a specific area in your warehouse. In this case, I'm going to choose my Ottawa location. I think that's the one that we had set up. And this is going to give me a list of the products that I have there. And it's very simple. I get a quick screenshot of what's actually here. I have 22 items currently, and I have 3 of Adept, 1 of Archon Blue, 2 of the Banshee. Can't get any, simpler than that. And then you also do have the ability that if you did want like a number of some of the stuff that is at 0, that you can also include 0 quantities as well. And you might get a little bit of a bigger list. But knowing that those options are there is also handy. So you can see that I added on a few more here as well. Okay. Another big inventory would be historical inventory. So that was the one that we were kind of referencing before, Anita, that you could use this mix with some of your sales reports to figure out, what those balances were, because this will let you know, what you did have at those certain times within the month. So if I, for example, wanted to see what was my inventory like on March 1st, I would be able to generate that and see what the total cost value was at that time. And again, we can see that quantity owned, where this is also factoring in the stuff that are on pick list. So if it hasn't completely left yet, this will still show those numbers. And it'll show you what the average cost is. So again, my Adept usually sells for $9.08. And if you don't really know how costing is kind of measured, maybe Costa, if you want to just link the cost article of how inFlow manages cost. In this case, this would be a moving average, which you're probably more frequently aware of. And what that's going to do is it's recording your cost levels as you're buying them. So if you buy it at $10 one day, and then another week you buy it at $11, and then another week you buy it at $15, it's going to give you the average based off of the quantities that you're buying of what you generally tend to pay for that item, because you always want to catch those fluctuations, and it's going to give you that margin.
It will also take in account how many you buy, of course.
Exactly.
If you buy 20 at 15 and then 25 at 20, it will also impact the cost of the final product.
Perfect. Cool. Great tidbit, Marcos. And you can see here, this is the quantity owned. This is what the total cost based off of what you had it there. And then you're getting also a total at the bottom, of the total that were actually there, and then how much that actually is worth in your inventory. Okay, so that's where you could probably tie it with some of the sales profit reports that you get at the end, and then compare it to what your cost value was here, and that might be able to give you another idea of like what some of your profits were within that. So historical inventory, I think one of the most common ones we see. A lot of people who use QuickBooks probably uses this very frequently, because you tend to probably try to compare those prices. But always keep in mind there's certain nuances that sometimes can make the numbers a little different. And if you ever want to know, you know where to go. CSM or to support. I'm just going to quickly just look over summary as well. Details. Just to give us a little bit more information. I apologize. The computer's slowing down a little bit if it hasn't been already for you folks. But the historical inventory, again, it's going to give us just a bit more detail. And now you can notice that it's using quantity on hand, which is actually a more of an accessible stock amount. So keep that in mind too, that's going to be the difference as well between owned that quantity on hand, that this number is the total you'll have physically available. This is also including quantity reserved, but minusing any items that have already been picked in a sales order. What's still on your warehouse shelves, for example. So that's where you might get a little bit of a different number there, where kind of just telling you the hand if there is an average cost for it, and what it actually might be worth in the end. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And we'll go quickly, and these are, I think, our categories of like our honorable mentions, which is going to be reordering, and then some of our auditing, manufacturing stuff. So quickly into reordering and forecasting, because I think this will be super helpful for a lot of folks. I talk to a lot of people all the time when they're trying to figure out, how much should I actually be setting my reorder points to? How much should I actually keep in stock all the time? And recommended reorder point, I think, is excellent for this. We can see at the top, the average period of when you might want something in stock, if how much of a percentage of a safety stock that you might need to keep on hand. And this is going to factor in a little bit of math. Costa, I'm also going to get you just to link in the chat the recommended reorder points article, which goes a little bit more into detail of the math that's involved in figuring this out, because it is going to require you putting in things like a lead time in your vendor profiles to know generally how long something takes to get to you. But what this is actually going to do is, if I set my location here and I have these parameters, this is going to try to analyze based off of, how much the lead time demand, how much safety stock I generally should be keeping, and then what my recommended reorder point. And really what your reorder point is, when your quantity levels go below this reorder point, you're going to want this to trigger some type of notification to reorder more stock in. In this case, the recommended reorder point would be 3 for this gift box. So anytime this reaches 2, which is 1 below the reorder point, if you have your reorder settings set up, it will then send you a notification that you have low stock of this. Okay.
Kiri, Brody is questioning if there is a way to set a lead time for individual products.
For individual products, you won't have that ability as far as I know. It is still based off of the vendor, because it's trying to factor in generally like when that person is trying to get to you. I think you could manipulate it in a way where if you have more than one vendor, I guess you could set another vendor to a shorter time period for that specific product. That's what I'm just thinking off of the top. But Brody, feel free if you want to kind of explore this a little bit more, reach out to us and we can probably see if we can come up with a way to work that out
would
for
be
you.
Interesting to
yeah, I think there probably could be a way to manipulate it if there is a specialty item that you wanted to do. Also keep in mind, it's still just doing math. So whatever number you're putting into that vendor, you can decide, what that is, and maybe it triggers it a little bit quicker. But again, you really do want to use this for the realistic numbers, because this is trying to do that math for you, right? Of setting what you think that safety stock and what that reorder point should be. So unless there is a specific product that doesn't have a very frequent lead time, then yeah, I can understand why you might want to set up for a specific product. But this should be kind of helping you out with doing a lot of those things for you and figuring out some of those details. So something just to have, I think it's always a handy tool to have, especially when you're first starting off with inFlow. I think that's really, really great. But as you're kind of going along and want to have some things a little bit more automated, starting off with a recommended reorder point might be a great way to do that. Another one to keep in mind too is the estimated inventory duration. So if you ever did want to know kind of like how long something has, stayed here, in your inventory, this is another good one for you. Keep in mind, estimated inventory duration is estimated how long your current inventory stock will last based on how fast each product has been selling or used in a work order recently. So you can see some of those filters up there. How much was used, the start date of when it was, the current anticipated quantity, and the estimated duration in terms of days it's been there.
Oh.
That kind of also ties really quickly. I won't go too much into inventory aging because I don't think everybody will tend to use this. But again, this is a very similar report in the sense of how long something has actually been in your inventory as well. Yes, Marcos, what's up?
Yeah, I was going to read the second question from Brody. I'm answering because there was a good chat. And also, kudos to James, who uses a custom field to set the lead time on a product. So anyone wondering, here's the workaround. Amazing. Thank you, James. And Brody was asking if you are able to run a semi-iteration or inventory aging for a specific location.
For a specific location, I think you can. Whoops.
I believe so, but it would be in desktop.
It might be on the desktop, yeah.
I believe so.
And I know I haven't alluded to too much desktop because I wanted to show web some love today, but you would find that if you are running some of these reports on desktop, that there are some other filters that might be there that have not made their way into web yet. So
there's some slight differences.
Right, exactly. So also keep that in mind, Brody. If you do have access to the desktop, maybe that's something we can explore with you to see if some of those details are in there as well.
Exactly.
Okay. And just because I don't want to eat up too much time and leave some more room for questions and answers, I am also just going to quickly touch on some of the manufacturing stuff. So if you are someone who does do in-house manufacturing and you are using work orders, and say there is somebody who needs to access some of those reports and they are on the web version, they still can run these reports. So work order materials is a great one to see, what were the completed, raw components that went into some of these work orders. You can get, a screenshot of what those are here, as well as the finished goods as well. Which one's completed and what were the finished goods that were put away from those work orders. And that's, again, you'll get a quick screenshot of that. And you can definitely play around with things like the statuses if you need to know, everything else that was also in progress, for example. This kind of lets you know web is still pulling those details from the desktop, even though it is a feature that you technically can't do on web. The data is still in the system and it's still going to be pulling from everything. So just keep that in mind as well, that you still have access to that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that will do it for most of those there. Again, you definitely have audit reports. If you needed to get a count sheet, you wanted to see a list of your stock transfers, movement logs, so many different reports that you can run in here. Sometimes you just have to play around with them. Keep in mind, everything you recently generate will sit in this recently generated area. So if there is something that you've been frequently running, this is probably where you'll end up jumping into. If it's the same kind of reports, you can quickly get to them there as well.
My apology, I stand corrected. It's not in stock levels, it's in auditing. The inventory movement details. When you want the inventory movement details, see if it was a purchase order or a transfer order, the date it started, the date it ended, location, sub-location, all that stuff. It's the inventory movement log. It should be details. And yeah, it's in audit log. So I'm sorry about that.
No problem. That's the thing. Reports are so vast that it's sometimes very hard, to remember exactly what is in what.
Yeah.
But that's why we work with you a lot of the times if we need to find. We understand that there are a lot of them, and then sometimes pulling the information can be a little jarring at first, especially if it is very fresh and new. But once you kind of start going through it a couple times, you tend to pick it up pretty fast.
Yeah, it just becomes automated, and you'll
exactly
be running the same reports most of the time.
Most of the time. So perfect. So I want to just say thank you for joining the webinar. I'd love to open this up to questions now, and later we'll have our beautiful giveaway for Beautiful gift card. So let's get into this right now. In terms of questions, like Kostya got a few answered, but yeah, take away ones I may have missed, Marcos.
Yeah. We also got through a few of them during the webinar. So yeah, this was answered. Oh, I do believe. I don't know if Matt's question was answered. So in the purchase order report, is there a way to only display paid POs, but not delivered? The purchase order status includes both delivered and awaiting arrival. If you had started, it includes all items delivered already. So
Yeah, so I think you should be able to set the status of ones that you started, especially if it is not unfulfilled. It's likely going to be in the same status here.
yeah, it should mean started anyways.
Exactly. So if you were partially working on something, Matt, it likely will fall into that started category. Maybe what I can do is go into detail here and show us what one of those POs look like.
So sorry, Kiri. And never forget, Matt, that at any time you can just go onto the order itself, click and open, and you can see the received items by going to the receipt tab, and you can see when they were received to where also. So if you ever need like super detailed on some order, you can go to the order directly from the report.
Right. And what Marcos is pretty much pointing out is this field right here, so the receive. So you can actually see what items were actually received and what location they actually went to. You can also see the receive date too.
Yeah.
Which is also super handy to get some of those details. But yes, so this is kind of what a partial unfulfilled order would look like. That would be in a started status. So we can see that some things have been brought in. Looks like there also needs to be some things that need to be returned on this one, which is why we have something like the payment remaining is not actually there. So keep that in mind as well.
Let's see. Great question. Sorry. I think Kostya is answering to this one, but do I have the link to call myself or auto-generate to match the data I have on the app already? It will generate the app you have on the map already. Basically, one big database where your phone, your web browser, and your desktop app, they're always synced. Don't worry, they all respond to the same database. More questions. Okay, this is an Amazon question, but should take that support. Should I clean out my asins before syncing my Amazon account, or does it not make a difference?
Yeah, I might say check in with support on this one, Jennifer. Please. Yeah, I'd rather not make that call for you right then here without looking into some of the details and create more of a mess for you. Yes. So yeah, I would definitely say reach out to our support team.
Sometimes the leap of faith it's not always the best solution. Reach out. Okay, the sales order summary. Sorry, from Donald, and it seems it came from a previous question from Francisco. But well, if you were responding to me, the sales order summary does not show returns. There is no way of viewing them on both of the reports. Okay, so let's see. Return.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a really good question.
Calling our attention to that.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look into that one, and maybe if you want to leave your email there. Was Francisco or Donald who asked that question?
I believe it was a question from Francisco that got away from me. I'm sorry, Francisco.
No problem.
But yeah, Donald just rephrased it. Yeah, being them both.
Yeah, you're right. So I think what it does do is it factors it into the profits, but I don't actually think it does show you on the returns.
Only returns, right?
Yeah.
Let me see. Our best friend.
You might have also not, because in our database here, we also may not have a return. And I only have 7 minutes
I
for
don't believe so.
questions.
Actually, I
Yeah.
don't believe so.
But what I'll do
yeah,
is,
I have.
if you want, Marcos, if you have this open, maybe make a quick return, and I can run a report quickly. And I'll see if I can go through some more of these questions. But
Yeah,
as far as
sure.
I know, I think you are right.
Yeah, don't believe so. Also took your email. Then also, if we figure something out, of course we'll answer. We'll contact you. Let me make a
Mhm.
return.
Right. Let me see who's after this. Andrea, will there be a webinar covering the app and how to properly input inventory information? I think there may be one already on the YouTube, our YouTube page, Andrea. But again, if you want some of those details, I would say if you know who your CSM is, we can link you to that as well. Okay.
Yeah, I have made a return.
You done a return? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can go back. Just made it for today.
Yes.
Right. So let's quickly see if we can get it. I'll just do last 30 days. It should be there. Is it
It's on SO 65058. Sorry, 658.
658? All right. Let's
Yep.
see if we can see it.
Oh, in any report, no. There are some reports where you can set a custom date as a range, So you can go from 1 of January to the 13th of March or 15th of March as you will, but not all reports have that capability. So a few of them use target dates. Some of them use all time. You can't even choose a date for it. Some of them use custom. So every time you see, for example, their invoice date. I'm sorry, Kiri, could you just press on the filter invoice date? Because it will probably have a custom. Yeah, on the date.
Oh,
You have the parameter. So yeah, you have custom. See, for example, in the sales order summary, you have custom date you can put from whenever to wherever. But in some reports, that option is not available. At least yet. I don't know if something will change or what changes will come to the reports. No problem. Can we import the C report template from the last version? No. Okay, although the reports are almost the same in web and desktop, like desktop has one or two that web doesn't have, and web has one or two that desktop doesn't have. So they're not really the same, and even the same report, sometimes the report may have a similar name, but it's not the same report, So yeah, you saving those when you make a certain report and you save it, so you can always do that report on desktop. That won't work on web. I'm sorry, but you will always have the recently generated. So probably the reports you use the most will be there, and probably with the same filters and everything, because if you don't change them, it will go to the last filters you had set.
That is correct. We only have about 3 minutes. Yeah, and I want to give away this lovely gift to you guys. So let me see if I can.
Don't forget the giveaway.
Yeah, we don't want to forget the giveaway. So I'm just quickly trying to see if there's any more really quick questions that we can answer. And feel free. I'm sorry if
maybe
I don't
can we just
Mm-hmm.
show how they can customers can do the columns, so put more columns in desktop. Yeah,
that's
was one of the questions.
So
yeah,
I'll definitely jump into that.
how can they be more customizable a little bit more? It's a little bit trickier because it's almost hidden, but yeah. can we download any report to Excel? Yes, I believe. I don't know any report that you cannot download to a CSV file. You're welcome, Francisco.
Signing in here. It just should be loading up in a second. I'll just take a quick peek.
Amazing.
Okay, so this is probably what you've seen. So we go into those reports, and you can see that there is a list here. You'll probably also already notice that there is a pretty big difference, right? With some of the other orders, other reports that are in here. You know, we have a pretty big list already for something like sales. But again, if I was to go into my sales order summary, this is how it generally would start off, but then I also have the ability of adding in all these other parameters, right? If I did need to add something else in there, you know, if I wanted to know the city, if I also wanted to know, you know, show me quotes as well, you know, show me the orders and quotes that we make. Something like that would be handy. And then if you go into more, this is where you can customize the columns that are those headers that you generally saw on the website. So you saw before, this is everything I could add as a different type of column. So again, it does get a lot more detailed when you're looking at some of the stuff here that you can put in there. You know, the same way that you do the grouping, but I think you do get a bit more of those grouping options. And then you also have the ability of sorting in different ways. So then, you know, sort by, first by the invoice date, and then by the PO number, and then by the inventory status. And then if I run this report, for example, again, it will lay it out a little differently from what you're seeing from the web. This is generally what that looks like. So it already kind of looks like it's in an Excel kind of format. You don't really have the same ability of jumping into things like you do on the web.
Yeah.
But you do get, you know, your order number, customer name, orders.
Sorry, Kiri. Can we go to the last two questions? Okay. From Cole. If we add a custom field of ounces per item and pounds per case, can we generate a sales order report that shows how many items sold in the total poundage? At the moment, they are using Excel, so at least you will be able to download to Excel. But we do have weight in our product details, right, Kiri?
Yeah, so there is that. There is like weight that you can put in there. If you play around with your units of measurement, you can also get things to start recording in that unit of measurement. I have had people come out to me that they just need to know what's the total pounds that they actually sold in a month. So if you do use the units of measurement, and again, Kostya, if you want to just link the unit of measurement article just so someone can read over really quickly, that is one good way. But yes, also keep in mind your custom fields should show up also as a way to search for certain things. So if you do put that in there, you should be able to see that in the drop down here, as well as on web. Actually, in some cases on web, putting a custom field has actually been a way that people have actually been able to get some of the details they want from the reports, because again, it is something that you can add into those filter or those headers at the top based off of that specific custom field that you made.
Okay, and from Alan Wong, we are importing the wholesale consumer products. I'm more interested in a report to generate customer latest order date, so we can organize our sales rep to follow up the customer who hasn't been ordered for the longest.
Yeah, and this is another one that I think it might take a little bit of fine tuning to get that exact detail.
Yeah.
Again, Alan, this might be something that I would say, just so I can get you the right answer, maybe either, again, reach out to us at support or reach out directly to your CSM, and we can kind of chop away and figure out exactly those details for you. Sorry, guys, I wish I had like all the answers, but yeah, with reports, they are so vast, they're so big. We could probably spend an hour just customizing one report, which I have done. Like, if sometimes you've ever gotten a call with me to just go through reports, yeah, we can spend a lot of time on them. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, and thank you everyone for joining our webinar this morning. I hope it was informative and helpful. And again, I know there's a lot of questions that still might be on the table, so please reach out to us so we can get those answered for you. Thank you again to my lovely co-host Marcos and my lovely moderator Kostya. We're gonna get back to work now to help you guys. But thank you for always being awesome and always joining these and asking such amazing questions. We can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kiri.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kostya. Bye.
Okay,
Bye bye.